I'm open. Ed Kuzer? Ed C user. Ed Cruiser. I just want to.
Okay. That's okay. That's all right. Okay, so I will turn it over to Mike.
Okay. Hey, good evening, folks. Thank you very much for having us. We're very excited to be here tonight to present where we are in this process. Before we begin, I just want to congratulate you folks and especially the facilities committee and the administration team here, Sandy, Doug. I know Dr. Roach and Dr. Farina are on the call. Super helpful. You know, without the foresight and the guidance and so on, we wouldn't be here right now. And just want to mention that, you know, this project, if agreed to, is shovel ready. And I think that's very important right now in today's climate. You can't pick up the paper without talking about supply chain issues or labor issues or materials issues. So we're out in front of this. Good fortune, a little bit of luck. So just want to kind of put that in perspective here, that here we are. Go ahead. Introduce the team real quick. I'm Mike Lang, Provident Energy Consultant. Joe Solomon, the president, Provident Energy Consulting's here. John Young, a senior energy consultant. Tim Guider, Director of Engineering and Development for ICS. We also have Kevin McCarthy from Noresco, Director of their Development and Engineering team, and Guy Malantino, who's a manager in the construction division of Noresco. So this team here, a couple more folks as well, have been working hard on this project to date. Next slide. So just a real quick agenda. We have an update for phase 1A. I mean, we just walked through and saw the chiller plant, but we'd like to highlight some of the other issues or items, and Guy would also update. We'll talk about the investment grade audit, the study, the geothermal system. We'll walk through the ECMs, phase 1B, talk about financials and next steps. And please, if there's any questions or anything, just jump right in. Be great. Phase 1A chiller plant. We just saw, many of us. It looks very beautiful. A really great job by Noresco. It's installed. It's running. It's working properly. Cold air is in the building. Exterior lighting and some air handler refurbishment is scheduled for the end of this month, so that'll get underway. The interior lighting and building envelope will happen this summer, and that's purposely to minimize any kind of distractions with students or staff in the building. And the roof repair testing at Marlboro will actually happen on Wednesday. So those are the highlights of 1A. Now, I know Guy wanted to just add a few things that, in addition to some of the things you may or may not heard at the chiller plant, Noresco was able to uncover a couple things and throughout this process, just some nice to haves that they took care of for the district. So I'll let Guy talk a little bit. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Guy Malantino, Manager of Construction with Noresco. Mike, appreciate the introduction. It was a pleasure highlighting some of what the project has accomplished already to date with the chill water plant. A couple things I wanted to, bring up as highlighting some of what Noresco provides and our commitment to ensuring we install a system that is going to work for the long term is, while we were running through construction, we did find that the condenser water system had significant scale buildup in some of the piping that we were reusing. So we did put some measures in to address that moving forward. We added some taps for the potential addition of side stream filtration moving forward. We also found some areas where the condenser water system piping, although it wasn't scheduled to be replaced necessarily, we addressed that piping and replaced certain lengths where it was needed. The bottom line is, we're certainly a partner here in wanting to help the school district and ensure that we deliver the best possible project that can operate for a very long time to come. Again, it was just a couple quick things to highlight some of the benefits that we're delivering for the school district. And I look forward to running through these next couple measures with the lighting ECMs and the roof repairs and other items that we're going to be doing here very shortly for the school district. So thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Guy. Next slide. So you'll notice this presentation will be a little wordy, and we're not here to just read all the words, but we thought that walking through, you deserve the amount of detail that really went into this audit. As you can see, a lot of meetings, a lot of hours, and that's just cracking the surface. And again, Doug and Sandy and the administration departments were instrumental. Doug's group, Ross, those folks, really instrumental in this whole process that really has taken up about 6 months now. Again, the geothermal system study was performed by Morrison. We'll go through that on the slide coming up. There was some environmental testing done by the district's environmental consultant. Really that brought us into some design enhancements and some hands-on performance testing. Really, we're on site quite often and digging into everything here. And this last bullet about automation controls, if you were at the chiller plant, you kind of heard about some of the issues and just not having a lot of control on not just the chiller plant, but most of the equipment at the high school. This program here will result in complete control for the facilities group. And so that'll be detailed a bit later on a slide, but I want to make that very clear that a big takeaway will be bringing that system into 2021, right, into the modern technology. So it's a huge step up from what exists there right now. Again, engineering design and the IGA stage has been completed, and we're talking through duct cleaning and asbestos. That'll be detailed again, some further slides out. But I want to kind of talk through this last bullet here of how we got to the number. I know most of you folks have seen the number of where the project is right now. In early April, when we received back the pricing from the mechanicals, and Noresco had scrubbed it, it was around $9.5 million. We realized at that time, both our companies, the mechanicals, that was not the number that we could bring back to the board. So it took weeks to scrub it, came down to 9, and then ultimately 8.3. 8.3 was a project that could have been brought to the board for consideration. However, again, knowing there's a budget here and better ways to spend money, we then started digging in on really our design enhancements and design options to bring you what we think is a great package right now. So that's how we've got down to the 704 number that we're currently at right now proposing. So with that, I'll kind of turn it over to Tim to talk through the ECM, or talk through the geothermal study and then the ECMs.
While he's taking his seat, I'm just going to tell those of you that didn't get to come see the chiller, it's beautiful and it works.
Thank you, Mike. So part of this investment grade audit was including this geothermal study, which we're going to talk about. Basically, that geothermal study gave us a lot more insight into the construction of the well fields that you guys have. Basically, the root cause of any of the issues that you have had in the different areas of the building have been that the geothermal loops are undersized. The well fields are undersized. So you'll see as we go through this presentation, and I'm going to highlight a couple of things here. We together, ICS, Noresco, and PEC, have come up with design options and final designs that include really 3 things. So one is you reduce the load that's on those well fields. We do that by converting air handling units and systems over to chilled water and hot water. Again, you guys have this brand new chiller plant. Part of this package is a boiler plant. So we want to maximize those systems and move as much as we can to the chilled water and the hot water systems. In the athletic wing, specifically the auxiliary gym, those units are going to be converted to gas-fired units and basically DX cooling, which means that they don't rely on the heat pump loop, the geothermal loops. So those are some of the measures that we're doing to reduce the load. We're also putting in new energy recovery ventilators, which will have mechanical cooling as well, which further reduces the load on the well fields. So basically, you want to match the load reductions to the deficiency that you have on the capacity side in terms of the loops. And then after you do that, we want to optimize the systems as best we can. So we want to put in the highest efficiency heat pumps as we can, and we want them to operate at their highest efficiency temperatures and set points as often as possible. So you'll see that's part of it. That all gets rolled into better control of the system. That's kind of the update on the geothermal study. We're going to talk about some of the impacts to the scope as we get further through the slides. I'm going to pass this over to Kevin to talk a little bit about the recommissioning and the controls upgrades, and then I'm going to come back for some of the other ECMs. All right, let's see. Yep. Thanks,
Good evening. My name is Kevin McCarthy. I'm a Director of Engineering with Noresco, as Mike had pointed out earlier. I'm going to talk a little bit today about the ECM's energy conservation measures number 6 and number 7, retrocommissioning and upgrading DDC controls. Like we said, we try to fit a lot on this page here. So before I start, I just want to give you guys 3 takeaways really we're trying to kind of convey here. Number 1, we're optimizing existing equipment. So there's quite a bit of HVAC equipment that has been deemed in good shape and able to remain in place. So as a result of that, we're going to be doing things like point-to-point checks, functional performance testing, recalibrating controls on that equipment. It's a very detailed and thorough process that will give us a list of things that we need to either repair, calibrate, fix. But at the end of the day, we're going to get these pieces of equipment back up and running as they were to be designed and also to meet existing code. We're also going to be testing, adjusting, and balancing these units to make sure that their airflows, as designed, are up to snuff, as well as meeting the code for outdoor air in the building. The second takeaway is we're going to be installing brand new controls hardware. So as you can see, that's the 4th bullet down, 4 new J's control panels at the high school, elementary school, 4th, 5th building, and admin building. We're going to be replacing controllers in the high school on the air handling units and rooftop units. Existing controllers are probably 15 years old, and in the controls world, that's pretty much a dinosaur. So we're going to be putting brand new controllers in there, state of the art. We're also going to be converting a lot of the control valves on these units. So the hot water and chill water systems, the endpoint users, the air handlers, have cooling coils on them, heating coils on them, and they have the control valves on them. The type of technology we're putting in is two-way valve control valves, which allows us to optimize the pumping systems in the building as well. So it's an energy efficiency measure there as well. And the third takeaway is we're expanding the capabilities of this control system. We're going to be putting in a new central server, and that's going to allow a couple of things that you guys don't have right now. One of them is to have complete visibility of all the HVAC systems in the schools in your guys' portfolio from a centralized location. So you can sit down at an existing laptop and that's connected to the system and have a view of all of the schools on that computer. We're going to update all the software. It's going to be all new software upgrades. The graphics will be up to date. They'll be cleaner and they'll be accurate. It will also give you the ability to trend certain points in the system. So this is helpful in things like troubleshooting or understanding hours of operation, making sure schedules are in place as they should be to meet the school's operating profiles. And also equipment alarms. The alarms will be visible from several different platforms, and will be able to be addressed pretty quickly. And it'll make the operating staff aware of issues way in advance, so it's not a surprise down the road. The other thing to point out is it's going to be the access to the system is going to be web-based, so it'll be accessible from multiple platforms for all the schools. So smartphones, laptops, workstations that are connected to the system, that's another capability that'll give you that type of connectivity and view into your system, so you can act on things expeditiously. And the last thing we wanted to point out that for this system, it's expandable. So right now we're going to be putting all the schools on here, but the other buildings in the Upper Perkman portfolio, so school district portfolio, could also be placed on the system in the future. So that's just a future expansion. I think is something that you guys mentioned is an important part of your mission here. So that you have that available there as well. So that pretty much addresses the controls one of it. That's on Nicole.
All right, I'm back. So the next set of ECMs are really around the boiler plants, the two, one at the high school and one at the 4th and 5th grade center. The high school, two items that I want to really mention here. So back in November we had a scope of work that was similar to this. There's two enhancements that we made. We have increased the size of the new boilers versus the boilers that you have now. For two reasons. One, we're adding load to the system. So like I mentioned before, part of optimizing the geothermal systems is to, remove load from them. But then the second point is really around the potential for future expansion. These boilers will last 25 plus years. So we discussed this with the administration, and we agreed to really maximize the dimensions of space that you have and put in the larger boilers that we could. So they're about 30% more capacity than what you have now currently at the high school. Additionally, we, through some of the testing that was done in the investment grade audit on the water side, we've included side stream filters and chemical treatment to the hot water system, which actually is installed already or being installed right now as part of 1A, but it's really part of the boiler plant work. The 4th and 5th grade center, basically the scope of work is almost exactly the same with a few nuances as what we had in November. Still cast iron dual fuel boilers, and we're reconfiguring the piping for primary secondary operation. That's the boiler plants. Next slide. Okay, this ECM 13 and 14 really apply to the 300 and the 400 wing at the high school. So this is basically one geothermal loop that serves those wings right now. The scope of work is very similar to what we had originally. The heat pumps being replaced, 30 of them plus one new heat pump where there wasn't one currently. We did flag several maintenance concerns. One, for instance, is 3 heat pumps we're relocating because it's really hard for the maintenance staff to get to these units because they're installed up to the ceiling when it's a drop ceiling that's like 15 feet below the roof line, and to get above the drop ceiling is almost impossible. So we're relocating them closer to the ceiling itself so the maintenance staff can address them and keep maintaining them. We are also extending the hot water and chill water piping from the central plant to the 300 wing to refeed an air handling unit and reheats that are in those areas. From there, we've now sized that line for the 300 wing and also the 400 wing to provide redundancy if needed in the future. However, from the analysis that's been done from the geothermal study, which we mentioned before, and the amount of load that we've reduced from the geothermal system, it's not required that you put the 2 heat exchangers and sets of pumps in for the supplemental heating and cooling, which was the original plan back in November. After we've done the analysis, we feel that this isn't required and it is a considerable cost for you to add that in. Certainly an option if you'd like to, but we don't feel like it's necessary at this point. Additionally, the 4 energy recovery units, like Kevin mentioned before, part of this plan is going to include bringing in code required outdoor air to all the spaces, making sure that they're balanced accordingly, and we're also going to be replacing and refurbishing exhaust fans in those areas. Next slide. Okay, so these ECMs 15 through 20 and 23 really are now the other side of the high school. So the original section of the high school, which is the 100 and 200 wing, and then also the athletic wing where the gym and the pool and the auxiliary gym are. Again, the scope of work is similar with the exception of originally we had these 10 heat pumps were being replaced with 4 pipe fan coil units. So they were going to have hot water and chill water, and we were going to run hot water and chill water from the central plants over to these areas. So through the analysis with the geothermal system, the capacities and the loads, we determined we have enough capacity in the geothermal loop, but also the extent of the piping runs got pretty significant. And for the 10 heat pumps, it was determined it wasn't favorable to put the 4 pipe system in. Additionally, it would force you to address some of the asbestos abatement areas, which we're going to talk about later, that are still options for you to address, but you don't have to address them because we're not running piping in those areas anymore. So from there, the change is, instead of putting in the hot water and chill water fan coil units, we've gone back to the geothermal heat pumps using that geothermal loop. And then very similar to the previous scope for the 400 and 300 wing, new energy recovery ventilators, new and refurbished exhaust fans. Then we have the new rooftop units that are over in the 93 edition. And with that, we've also added the reheats that are not currently on your control system. Those are going to get added to the control system. So your maintenance staff, again, has more visibility into the systems. And then just refurbishment and replacement of several units and hot water reheat coils in the 100 and 200 wing. Next slide. So here, this is basically a handful of ECMs that are being done at Marlboro, adding VFDs for better control on the pumping systems, replacing valves for energy efficiency and control, and then converting some of the pneumatic or compressed air systems over to DDC controls. Again, it's similar to what's being put into some of the newer systems that you have in the district. Well pump controls, and then cleaning the major air handling units as part of that refurbishment. And then on the asbestos removal side, the one item that we have to do as part of the project work is the reheat coil fittings, because on the previous slide, we're refurbishing 79 of them. Those have asbestos abatement that's required in order for us to replace valves and refurbish those reheat coils. But additionally, from working with the administration, it was the district's desire to add in a couple of other items that were flagged in the HERA reports that you have, including the plumbing chases and the floor tile in 2 classrooms. There are 2 optional items as well: fireproofing in the corridor near the gym and pool, which if we had extended the piping in that area, we would be forced to do it. But now it's an option for you if you would like to. And then the second is, cleaning the asbestos above the ceiling in the 200 wing. And Doug, I don't know if you want to maybe chime in here and add some commentary to the asbestos.
Sure. So as Tim mentioned, the first bullet point here, the reheat coils, that is essentially asbestos abatement that needs to take place because it's in the path of construction. In order to complete that ECM, the fittings on those reheat coils have to be abated and insulated. The next 2 items, the plumbing chases and floor tile in 2 of the classrooms, those items have been noted in past HERA reports as needing abatement, and we figured while we have an abatement contractor on site, let's add those into this project and get those completed this summer as well. The 2 optional units, or 2 optional items, we are gathering pricing on those. So if we choose to go after those, likely not this summer just because of bandwidth. If we choose to go after them next summer, we'll have solid budgetary pricing to either loop them into another phase of energy project here, or potentially go out to bid separately for that abatement. They are not asbestos that is of any concern, really. They're in isolated areas that aren't accessed. But should we need to get into those areas for future piping runs or for any additional work, we might want to consider that abatement as well. So the first 3 items would be this summer. The next 2, we'll get pricing on and then potentially plan those for the fall. So.
Okay, and then I'm going to pass it on to Mike.
Okay, I'm back. So again, thanks, Tim. Thanks, everyone, for the help on describing and walking through the ECMs. Total outlay for 1B, $7,040,560. Now, this is inclusive of an asbestos allowance. So we recognize pricing is not back yet. We have estimates. We have, some really good, contingencies built in. So the allowance will work as those numbers are coming in firm. If they're under, there'll be a credit, back. So we're hopeful that there will be that way. And therefore some of the work would actually be performed outside of this project, some of the testing, some of the add backs, like maybe in the classroom, but that funds are allocated in this so that you're seeing a number that is inclusive of hopefully the total cost of what that is. But at this point, there's a walkthrough scheduled for Wednesday with some contractors, and we're optimistic we'll have pricing back by the end of the month. So should be soon. Again, the savings for 1B, 43,665 for year 1. That is a total of over 100,000 when you add in the 1A savings. When you ramp up 20 years and we did a 2%, very conservative escalator for inflation and energy cost rising, you're looking at about 2.5 million in savings over 20 years. So it's a good number that'll help offset some of the outlay that the district is putting in right now. One thing to point out too, the environmental impact, right? We talk about funds, we talk about dollars, but with the less energy being used here, both the natural gas, some propane savings, some electricity savings, we're looking at a greenhouse gas equivalent of about 175 cars removed, or about 97 houses annual energy use. So it's a good project too, not only from a savings perspective, but also environmental as well. So next steps, board meeting on May 13th. We'd be asking you to approve the construction work order 1B in that amount. Again, we'll continue to receive these abatement bids and pass those on to administration to finalize that piece of the puzzle. And then also, like Doug mentioned, you'll have some good firm numbers for those optional jobs. Again, we want to stress that this is a really good start, right? There's still a lot of things that probably need to be done in the district, even at the high school. So we want to continue to plan and prioritize. We'd love to help you. Remember, there's still, we started this process uncovering about 50 ECMs and we implemented, roughly 24, 25. So there's a good amount just from that report remaining. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff too. The indoor air quality should be a continued improvement. Boiler plants and unit ventilators at Marlboro, and some other things here. So 4 or 5 chiller, roofing, district-wide, HVAC, and that's it. So got lost power here. But anyway, that's just a list of a couple things that you obviously are probably on your list. So with that, we could open up any questions that you folks might have, and I'll try to handle, and we could pass along to other folks here. We have a good amount of people in the room.
Anyone want to have some questions? Peg, Mike, Dina, Keith, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Sure, I don't really have any questions because there's so much
Oh, wait, we can't
information.
hear you. Hang on a second. I can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Yes, no? That's the 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Okay. I really don't have any questions because there's just so much information. I am amazed as you were going through the slides stating, the number of chillers, heat pumps and everything like that. I mean, is there like a heat pump pretty much every room or what? I know that this project is going to save us money in the long run, but I wish I could have been part of it from the beginning so I could have understood more. Let's just put it that way. Is anybody talking? I don't hear anything.
How's that? Are we good?
Now I can hear something.
Okay, just to answer the question on the heat pumps, in the 400 wing, for example, there is a heat pump for every classroom. Absent the digital art room, they're either in a closet or they're above the drop ceiling, but there's approximately 30 in the 400 wing alone. So there's quite a few in the school. Any other questions?
Mike said he didn't have any questions. But I would like to hear what Mike thinks about, because we have to send this to the board on Thursday if we're doing this. Peg, questions? Mike, Dana?
I don't have any questions. I'm good. I really appreciate the presentation and I'm in favor of what we're doing. So thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Anyone else?
I don't have any questions. I just find it extremely overwhelming. And the fact that we went from 9 million to 7 million, I'm wondering if Dr. Farina was involved in that, getting those rates down. If you were, kudos to you, Dr. Farina. At the risk of living in the past, as I usually do, it's just mind-boggling how we got to this point and, what the heck was going on the last 10 and 15 years. I just don't get it. We're just cleaning up a big mess. And it is what it is. I get it. But holy moly, this is overwhelming to me. And I'm old, so maybe that's the problem.
If I could chip in or say something.
Go ahead.
Okay, so to me, these problems, much to Peg's points, have been in this district, not even just the last 10 or 15 years, but going back way further. A lot of kick the can down the road, right? A lot of, oh, we'll get to that, a little piecemeal. Now, some of that is inherent in just, I think how these things work sometimes with districts, but we have really done a job of that. And I think that's why we've been in the position that we've been in for the past couple of years as we've tried to address this. I remember a school board member said to me, I'd been on the board for a couple of years at that point. He's like, you better be careful. You're opening up Pandora's box. And we did, because there's a lot of things that we've needed to address. But I think what's great is that, like, with this GIZA study and some of the other things that we've done, we've really looked to address those things and make some changes. And I think this is a big part of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to have happen, when it comes to our facilities. And I think, kudos to everybody, from Doug to the guys doing the study, to our administrators, and of course to our amazing custodial staff who have really, worked hard to with this process. So Peg, you're spot on. You're spot on. There's a lot of work that hasn't been done. But what's nice is we're rolling up our sleeves and we're addressing this stuff, which is what we've needed to do. And it's great to see us doing that. So that's just my soapbox. I'm done, but thank you.
And Mike, to your point, I get it. And I'm sorry if I consistently come off as critical. And I echo what you just said about the people in this meeting, how you've rolled up your sleeves and you're brave. I think we're all brave to take this on and do what we have to do, no matter how painful it might be. So I guess it's just a matter of, forge on and keep asking Dr. Farina to find us more money. Yeah.
And Sandy for the little bit of time she's left here with us.
All right, well, I have a few things to say as well. So I want to thank everyone for your dedication. And I also want to make sure, and I was talking to Doug earlier today, and I want to make sure that it is noted that that 9.5 million, when it came down to, now I don't remember the exact number, but when it came down to, you guys put in a lot of time for that and a lot of sacrifice to us. And we really appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that because that wasn't common knowledge. So I really appreciate that. We are, one of the big things about doing this is that at some point, I don't know how far into the future, but at some point, our buildings will all mesh together instead of being piecemeal and, like Peg said, kick down the road. And I'm glad we're a part of that. And I appreciate everyone. Alan's laughing at me.
You scared me. It sounded like you were putting all 5 of them together. I'm like, what are you doing?
Oh, no, I'm not meshing all of them physically together. No.
That's a good plan.
Yeah, sorry. So I just, I want to again thank everyone for everything that you've done so up to this point. And I also want to remind everyone that what I didn't think about until just a little while ago when I was looking at that lovely tiller is that $7 million project. That's not all just this year's dollars or next year's dollars. And I have one question about that. So Andrea didn't find all of the savings, just saying, but it was good. Also, are there any, since we're working on indoor air quality, is there any of our ESSER funds or any of our grant, our monies that could be put toward that, since that's part of the whole, COVID, bring in the good fresh air, and we need to do that. So that's just, I don't expect everyone to jump and answer me there, but I'm hoping that maybe we can beg, borrow, and steal some of it to use for this project, because we really do need to move forward. And that's my recommendation as well.
Doug, I'm going to have a couple questions. If you can help and just share the concerns that I know I have with those other 2 optional areas of asbestos. Although we're not actively going through them now with a revamp, definitely an area of concern in terms of the asbestos that's there and some of the air pieces. So you can just share a little bit, shed a little light on the importance of those as well. Not that we want to raise it above that 7, but we need to be at least transparent in terms of that's there. And if it's not going to be addressed right away, when it's going to be addressed.
Yeah, they're the 2 optional asbestos abatement areas. One of them is the corridor above the drop ceiling in between the gym and the pool. That area is not frequently accessed, but it is a concern from an abatement perspective or an indoor air quality perspective. There's a small change we can make as part of this project to kind of avoid that area. No, we're not going to run piping down that hallway, but it would be my strong recommendation that, as soon as time allows, that we, go after that abatement and remove it. I think if we're looking at a high school, quote unquote, renovation some point in the future, mostly aesthetic, because we're doing most of the mechanical in this project, it would have to be abated anyway. So I think that's, something we definitely want to keep on the radar, and we'll take the pricing. And I don't believe the contractors think they can do it this summer. But certainly next summer, I think that should be, high on our list. And the second item is really an indoor air quality kind of cleaning above the drop ceiling in the 200 wing. Potentially, if time allows, maybe we go after that this summer. But we'll know better after the 12th, this Wednesday, when we have the walkthrough with the contractors. We'll get the pricing a few weeks following, and then we'll understand the project timeline. But both of those optional items are, I think Dr. Roach and I share the same opinion. They're not really optional in our mind. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Agreed. Alan, do you have anything else?
Just one other comment, just in general, as we're preparing this week to look at our overall budget for next year from the board, that we're really expending a lot of the coffers here in terms of that other budget piece. So that's something to remember as we're heading into that other conversation for next year's budget, and how money has been transferred year over year to build that up to be able to do this. We don't want to be short-sighted on simply a one-year kind of that comment that Mrs. Pennypacker just had in terms of want to think ahead and think future and be brave in some of those decisions as we move forward. And I'll continue to advocate that we have our challenges, where our commitments already, and not to get on a soapbox and full day K and transportation and all that. Those are expenses that are there. And part of the reason that you guys are in this position, people that have been here, Sandy and the team, is because you have done that over the course of time to build that up. So we want to make sure that that's at least taken into consideration. And I'll step down from my soapbox.
That's okay. We all have soapboxes. We get on them frequently, actually. Anyone else? Dana, have anything to add? Subtract, multiply, or divide?
If I'm on board, you have to spend a little money in order to save money, and that's the route we're going.
Okay. Anyone else? I don't see any hands up. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you all coming out. Thank you for the tour of our new chiller. I'm excited about that. Much better than a big old rental that took up half the parking lot. So, all right. Well, I guess we'll be talking about it on Thursday. Yep.
Are we actually?
Oh.
I was gonna say, are we actually putting a motion on the agenda, or is there? Is it going to come from the floor? I mean, that's something that we're waiting to see before we. It's already on there. Well, it's on the draft, but I want to make sure it was the recommendation coming out of the committee tonight to have it on the agenda. And then that'll be a discussion point, because when we're not, I understand, from my understanding, we're not having another presentation on it. It'll be in the motion area. But want to confirm with Doug and then the committee. Typically, it would come out as a recommendation from the committee to move forward, or if you want to not put it on there as a recommendation, or however you want to handle it. I just need to know how to address it.
Okay. Well, I think we need to have it on there. I think we're going to have a discussion. Is this going to be on the SharePoint? This presentation?
I believe it was shared last Friday.
Oh, that's right. Okay. That's right. Thank you.
In the blog.
Yeah, thank you. Although I'm getting pretty comfortable with those. Better than special ed. I have trouble with them yet. So
When the again, that this was.
I would like you, yes, I would like you to do
Board has
that.
Not seen the draft.
Okay. Yep. It sounds like the rest of the facilities is on board with this. So I would say put it on there. We'll for sure discuss it on Thursday. That's all we can do. And hopefully everyone will take a look at it. And if they have any questions, they can always direct them to Doug. I can pretty much answer a lot of them. And we'll go from there. All right. So do I have a motion to adjourn? Or unless you have anything else, Doug?
One quick non-agenda item, but it is related to this project. We were asked to provide essentially parking lot space for a few storage containers and I believe 3 dumpsters to support the lighting installs, locking containers, storage containers, and hopefully dumpsters that have covers. In looking around the district, the thought is to place them here at the Ed Center because they were centrally located to the schools, and hopefully out of the way from, traffic that's going in and out of the schools over the summer. I believe the storage requirement is through the end of August or so. So there's the rear of the education center here, and there's kind of a back corner that was under consideration. And then I thought maybe even a little bit closer to the building, at least under a pole light. So I was just asked the committee's feelings on here versus the only other places I can think of are the band parking lot at the high school, sort of in the back, or I thought about 4 or 5, but with the traffic changes there, I'm not sure that's going to be an option if it goes past August. So I guess my recommendation would be here, and potentially just a little bit sort of out back, but not in that alcove, just to get it in a lighted area. And they would be out there for about 4 months or so.
I think that makes sense. I mean, you guys all park here, so does anybody park back there anyway? Pretty far from all the doors.
Yeah, no, there's no parking up against in the building side of the parking lot. Everyone parks in the grass side of the parking lot there, so.
Okay.
There's people in the community that live next door that park there sometimes.
Yeah, well,
And
not
walk
in the
through.
summer this year, I guess, huh?
What's that?
Not in the summer this year, I guess.
Well, it won't take up the whole area, but
Okay.
Yeah, no, it won't.
Oh, don't take away my family extra parking. Haha.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of get it out of the way and
Okay.
put it somewhere where it's lit, and at least we can keep an eye on it during the week.
Hey, Doug, just an idea, if I may.
Wait, Mike, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
how did you hear him?
I don't know.
Hey, just an idea, just be careful that where you do place them though, make sure that's in a lit area, because you don't want, you want to try to dissuade people from dumping in there on Friday and Saturday nights as much as you can, just in case, just throwing it out there.
Good point. Okay, I know Peg hopped off, but I'm sure she, again, it's better where there's a place where there's no kids. That's what I think. Okay. Doug, you're good? Okay. Mike, you want to make a motion to adjourn?
There we go. Sorry. Sometimes I have trouble hitting the thing. Motion to adjourn.
Second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. He said aye. I don't know if you
Aye.
heard it, but I did. Okay, well, thank you again, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Goodbye,
Bye.
thank you.